Good evening. I call to order the Monday, June 12, 2017 legislative session of the Swarthmore Borough Council. We begin with a period of public comment. Is there anybody from the public who wishes to comment? I see no hands, so the public comment period is ended. You have had distributed to you minutes of our meeting of May 8th and June 5th of 2017. Is there a motion for the approval of those minutes as they were distributed? So moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any correction or addition to be made to those minutes? Seeing none, all those in favor of approving the minutes as distributed say aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Opposed? They're approved. I have several items. We had a discussion, I think last week, I'm not sure we voted last week, to the effect that we would not have a work session in July. And it had already been planned, though it's still on the calendar, to have a work session in August. Not to have a work session in August, and so I think it's necessary for us to take action since that schedule had been published. It's kind of a motion that we not have a work session in July or in August, so that the only meetings in July will be the 10th, and in August will be Monday the 14th.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Lawrence seconds. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Opposed? So our schedule for the balance of the year is so amended. We, at an earlier meeting, had authorized a letter be sent to our state senator opposing legislation that would preclude local municipalities in Pennsylvania from imposing taxes on plastic bags at places like the co-op or any such place. And State Senator Costa replied to that, thanked us for our letter, nevertheless believes, having opposed such legislation in the past, believes that the imposition of such a fee can in fact discourage the use of bags because people have to pay for it and would otherwise use other things. But nevertheless, he thanked us for our communication, but said that if introduced in the Senate, he will oppose legislation that would preclude us or other municipalities in Pennsylvania from imposing, banning the imposition of such fees. So I just share that information with you. Last week, I reported that there was new litigation in the Commonwealth Court of Pennsylvania having to do with a small cell antenna. And we, having intervened or taken a position in the Public Utility Commission, were given an option to intervene in the Commonwealth Court proceeding. Bob Scott suggested that we not do so, in part because the PUC itself will be defending its own action in the Commonwealth Court. I don't think a motion is required, but my sense of the meeting last week is that, and I solicit the similar views this week, as to whether we're all okay with not formally intervening as a municipality in that proceeding. Okay, thank you.
And I'll just note, they did pretty well on their own in front of the PUC. Anyway.
Yeah, well, there are others. There'll be other people intervening, I'm sure, in opposition in the Commonwealth Court. They just don't need our extra 5 cents on that subject, I think. So, Finance Committee, Environment Committee.
Yeah, sure. I just have one thing to report, which is there was a good turnout on Saturday, May 27th for planting in Little Crum Creek Park, and planted 30 shrubs and 8 trees. And so this was with a $500 grant from the Delaware County Conservation District and $500 donation from the Chester Ridley Crum Watershed Association, and $500 from EAC, from the Centennial Fund that holds money for the EAC. So that's another really nice improvement this year to the park. And they'll be looking for some volunteers to help water some of these plants later on.
Okay,
That's all I have.
thank you very much. You will or will not be meeting this month?
We will not.
Okay, thank you very much. Finance Committee?
Sure.
Michael?
First I'll go over the financial report for May 2017. Really the only thing worth commenting on is the revenues are a little bit lower in terms of percentages at the same time last year. And a couple of factors are impacting that, but they will most likely be very short term, and that is real estate transfer taxes are a little bit lower than budgeted. Obviously that's a lumpy item, as well as building permits. So those are the kinds of things that are causing that. They were a little bit stronger last year. But in terms of visibility, both of those things are going to most likely come back, is what Jane sees in the pipeline in terms of obviously with the college and property transactions that have or are occurring. So I think that will catch up as the year goes on. So otherwise, everything is going pretty much as expected.
Thank you.
And we ended the month of May with a cash balance of $2,615,437. Any questions about the financial report for May? Okay. I'm going to move on now to checks and wire transfers to pay for the month of May. Just to comment at the bottom one, if you recall, the transaction to ratify is what we approved. I forget the exact name of the system, but that I guess it's the go-to tech is the technical name. But so that transaction, that's being purchased for $8,543.91. That's I think the initial payment. I think there's future payments.
It's 50%.
50%, yeah. Deposit. And then there's some maintenance fees to come.
Right, which are $1,000.
So as we talked about this, I think it was either last week or last month's meeting. So anyway, I'll make a motion then in terms of the transactions to ratify for the month of May, totaling $38,454 and a penny. Just looking for a second for that.
Second?
Second.
Mr. Murphy, second.
In addition,
Yeah.
do you want to do the transaction?
And if we can roll that all into
Sure.
one.
Okay.
I'd like to also make a motion to include transactions to ratify totaling $8,543.91 as previously discussed.
And your second includes that as well?
Second.
Okay, I just, well, let's have a vote on that, and then I'll comment on a payment reflected on the transaction to approve the payment to Media Borough for housing prisoners. I had communications with the chief about that, just by way of background. But all those in favor of approving the transactions to ratify and payment of the matters on the bill, let's say aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Any opposed? They're approved.
Okay. So now we'll move on to open invoices.
Oh, okay, sure.
If you want to comment at the end about what the question you have, but I would just point out that on page 5, the Merino Corporation is the first payment for the installment of sidewalks, totaling I think $83,584.76, and this is going to be rebated per once completed. So just FYI on that, as you know the progress that's been happening there. And then I'll make a motion to approve the bills totaling $339,095.02 for the month of May.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second, Mary, thank you very much. Any questions about any item? I will note that there's an item 544 on page 5, Media Borough prisoner housing, January through April, total amount is $1,845. That caused me to ask the chief some information about how it is that they house our prisoners. And the chief was good enough to forward to me copies of the documents whereby they house our prisoners. And the present cost under those papers is $30 an hour for while they have our prisoners. I was also interested in when the prisoners are in their care, whose prisoners are they? Are they Swarthmore police prisoners or are they immediate borough prisoners? And the thing that prompted me to ask that, because of the present concerns that exist in some places in this country about detainers that are placed by the Immigration and Code Enforcement arm of the Department of Homeland Security for persons who are in the care, in the custody of police, but where no warrant has been issued, where the ICE wants to, often in connection with potential deportation proceedings, to take control of prisoners. And my question was, and I think Chief will correct me if I get it wrong, that even though these individuals who are arrested by us and are detained in the immediate lockup at our cost, they remain while they're our prisoners. And so any action taken with respect to them is done at the direction of our police department and not the immediate police department, if it were ever to come to that. But that's the nature of our relationship with media. They're providing a service to us, and I guess to other departments too, that like us do not have adequate facilities to house prisoners for any period of time at all. So I thought I would share that information with you. If any of you have questions for the Chief about that, any part of that, please feel free to ask me.
One question. We voted on this computer system for the cars, and I don't think you were here. We had a discussion in a prior session where we kind of decided to do that. One of the things that was brought up was that this system might have some capacity to do some things that were requested on the aging in place task force report around having some notations for the officers, like that would be helpful with older people in their homes. So obviously implementing the system is in the future, we're not there yet or whatever, but I'm just wondering, how would we ever get to the point of figuring out if we were going to do anything like that?
Well, I circulated a proposed questionnaire to the Public Safety Committee regarding the form we would make available to the people to give us the information, and we would just take the information provided on that form and put it right into the computer system. It's not a big deal.
So actually, Ross, we have a task for your committee.
Okay.
So that came out of that. And I'll get to that when we get to the
Okay,
Public Safety
great.
report.
Okay, great, thank you.
Still with the Finance Committee, Michael, are you meeting this month?
No, we'll not be meeting.
Okay, thank you very much. General Government?
We will be meeting on the 19th, and that's our regular time. And we have, at least to this point, two things that we'll be talking about. One is we were tasked with the manager coming up with a new form for a permit application for town center events. And Jane and I worked on this, and our committee hasn't yet considered this form, but Jane and I finished our draft.
It's a superb form. I just, it's not only a great start, it's a great finish, a great ending, a great middle. It's really quite it's not just a form, but well, by and by we'll all see it, but it's quite a exemplary effort.
Okay, great. I'll take that. Yeah, thank you. So that's on the agenda. And then also today, Sharon Nestor, who's the president of the board of Town Center, contacted me about some activities that they're having. And we decided that it would be good for Sharon to come in as the new head of the board of Town Center to come into the meeting and talk about the things she wants to talk about. And two things she brought up for me, Mr. Mayor, I think you may know about some of this already, but they have some new board members, and so they're going to do a walk around town to kind of look at the town and think about what they want to do. And they would be happy to have any member of council go. I have this prior commitment, so I'm not going to go to this walk around town, but anybody here who wants to go, it's on Wednesday, the 14th this week.
At 7:30.
At 7:30, yeah.
And you meet like Great, in Central Park or something?
Just walking around town, I guess, looking at the buildings, just looking at the town center.
The end. That's where they have their meetings, at the England Aquarium.
Okay, all right.
So that's one thing they were interested in. Then a second meeting that they wanted somebody to come to, they wanted me to come to, but I'm not available to, because it's on the 21st, June the 21st, which is next week on a Wednesday. It conflicts with the planning commission meeting where we're talking about aging in place, which was a prior commitment. But they set up this meeting and they want to have Beth Murray lead a process where they vision 10 years out what the town should be. And so they're interested in participation in that process. I said, I'd like to attend that meeting, but we're already committed to this aging in place discussion on the same date, and they just made this. But if anybody wants to attend that, you're welcome to do that as well. And they want to come to council either through one of the committees or some way around this visioning process. So they're starting all of that.
All right.
Okay? Is that
Okay.
okay? So if any of you are interested in participating, anybody is welcome to go and hear what they're doing. And we'll have a meeting on the 19th, and we'll hear directly from them about that, and presumably get more into that.
Okay.
I think that's it.
Thank you very much. Any questions for Ross? Okay, thank you very much. Planning and zoning? Mary?
Thank you. I had said at last week's meeting that the Planning and Zoning Committee would be meeting this month, but as it turns out, we are not meeting because both Lauren and Jane will be out of town. So there is no Planning and Zoning Committee meeting on June 22nd.
Okay.
So we will probably meet in July. And then I wanted to mention, since Jane is not here tonight, if you look at her report, there are 2 zoning hearing board applications that will be heard on Tuesday, June 27th. One is for a variance to construct a deck at the rear of the home on Dogwood Lane, and then the other one is for a special exception to install a front yard fence on a street that's high traffic density. And then they also need a variance for the height of the fence. So those, again, are Tuesday, June 27th at 7:30.
Okay.
That's it.
Thank you very much.
Mhm.
Public safety, David? Public safety?
Sure, a number of things on the agenda for this evening. So last week, it seems as if there was some discussion anyway of the proposed amendments to the civil service.
Yes, a lot of
regulations.
discussion last week.
And there are actually 3. One I assume was non-controversial, and that's the one where it takes 3 members to make a quorum.
So there's no controversy about that.
I didn't think there would be.
Wait, did our number, such as B, we used about who even thought in Harrisburg about changing what constituted a quorum, and you just wondered what problem had arisen in Lackawanna County that some renegade
One
group
person,
of
yeah.
the Civil Service Commission had.
Are you watching House of Cards?
I give up on
Could be
4 seasons.
Could
ago.
be something along those lines, I don't know. Okay, so the other 2, you probably did discuss the idea of substituting 3 years of continuous
We did.
police service, and I don't know how that discussion went. One thing I would point out is that the way it's currently written, the requirement is for 60 college credits from an accredited institution, which may include credits earned toward Act 120 certification. So one thing to keep in mind is that the 60 credits aren't necessarily 60 credits that are going to be obtained in, your kind of classic college or university situation, because they could be in pursuit of the Act 120 certification. So the substitution for I'm just pointing out, I think that the substitution of 3 years of experience for those kinds of, for those 60 credits is maybe not as big of a change as it might otherwise seem. And you probably all talk about why the Chief Craig and the sergeants were in favor of this change
We
and
did.
so forth and so on.
Our understanding was that having the present requirement to some extent is thought to limit the pool of potential applicants for consideration in hiring. So, yeah, that was our understanding.
Okay.
I expressed some concerns on the subject, and among other things, I mentioned that under our contract with our uniformed employees that we undertake to pay for further education in aid of their service as police officers, and that if they came to us without themselves on their own dime, as it were, having obtained 60 credits, they could then look to us to pay however much it costs for them to acquire those 60 credits, which I thought was, now one could say, well, take that up when you bargain the contract, but I'm not sure the Fraternal Order of Police sitting wherever it sits will necessarily see that issue the way we see it tonight when we're trying to deal with our Civil Service Commission regulations. There was a comment was made by one among us that, in fact, that some utility, now this might be to some extent lessened if, in fact, the 60 credits aren't in whole or in part traditional college credits, but our police have to react, given the presence of the college here, on a regular basis with college students, and then the implication being it would be helpful if they had themselves at some point, at least to the extent of 60 credits, had been college students. But I will and we really decided just to let it come to this week. There was the question, should it go back to to your committee or beyond that to the Civil Service Committee? But at this point, I just ask other members of council to chime in on the subject.
I raised the question also whether the security staff at the college had any view on it.
And I honestly don't know the answer to that. I mean, we could ask Mike Hill. He might have a view, but I think I probably can guess what his view would be, but I'm not going to offer that guess. But that's certainly something that we could find out.
Any other questions or?
David, I did want to, I guess, just follow up on the point you made, and it was a good point that if, like on the face of it, I like the idea that they should get 60 credits, but if it turns out that, and maybe Chief Craig can help answer, if most of the time that the credits they're pursuing are police department education and not traditional 2-year, 4-year institutions, is that typically the case? Or?
I'm not clear what.
Criminal justice or?
The officers, the Act 120 certification, most of the officers are getting that through Delaware County Community College. They get 34 college credits as part of the Municipal Police Officers Education and Training Commission. And most of Delaware County gets it through Delaware County Community College. So they are, for that period of time, they are on a college campus.
Okay, well, so I guess that's the time answers. So typically when we see applicants and they have 60 credits, those 60 credits are typically like Delaware County Community College, and that's where they're going?
At least 34 of them, and then the other ones just have to be from an accredited college, but we don't have any requirements that they be law enforcement related.
Okay, and we haven't hired a bit, so it's, I'm not saying we have a big pool of evidence to which to go back to check.
Yeah, our last two candidates both had college degrees when they came.
Ah, okay, that's interesting. Thank you.
Jude, I have to ask, how significant, and I'm sure the pool of potential candidates is never the same at any 2 points in time, but how much an impediment is it, in fact, do you believe, to retain the 60 credit requirement that presently exists?
I can only tell you, the people I'm talking to right now, I just had a conversation 2 weeks ago with an officer from a small borough, and they're scared because they were part of the Montgomery County Consortium. They're concerned because people who passed the test, the departments that went into it are now scrambling to get what they consider to be the cream of the crop, and they're not happy with what's available. So
I'm not sure I understand what the Montgomery County Consortium, I'm not sure.
they had a large pool of candidates,
Right.
considerably, which was half of what they were looking at before in other hiring situations, but they're not meeting the background investigation requirements. They're having problems with the polygraphs. So even once you get the people taking the initial test, they're whittled down by the time they actually become qualified to become a certified police officer.
But the consortium is a group of municipalities that get together and give the test,
Yes.
and get a larger pool, so that, you know,
And
so
we
it's
don't
not
do that.
just the borough giving a test.
We don't do that in Delaware County, so each individual department
Right.
tests individually, and we're just trying to get the largest pool we can.
How many municipalities in our county have a requirement such as ours for a certain number of college credits to be considered for employment?
How many currently have?
Yeah.
I know Springfield dropped their requirement, similar to what we're asking for. I can't tell you what, I think Marble has kept their requirement, but I can't state specifically which departments have specific requirements.
I mean, it seems like what initially anyway was driving this change was this concern about the size of the pool of candidates and how qualified they were. And reading between the lines, what I've been hearing is that the 60 college credit requirement, even though 34 hours of the 60 have to do, or could have to do with police training, that did limit the size of the pool kind of right off the bat, because obviously even someone who was working in another department that didn't have that requirement might not meet it. And then the other thing that I've kind of heard is, again, maybe I'm reading this into it, but that even after you have whittled down the size of the pool because of the 60 college hour requirement, you might think, or your first inclination might be, oh, well, the people that meet that requirement are ipso facto going to be more qualified than those who don't, but that's not what I've heard. And so I think the concern is both with the size of the pool and with the overall level of qualification of the candidates in the pool. But having said all of that, I mean, I don't have any empirical evidence either.
Isn't it true that we can still use the college aspect as a criteria in the selection? If you have two candidates that are
Yes. Yes.
more or less equal, and one has college and one doesn't, and we feel strongly about it in the hiring process.
That's exactly right. I mean, it wouldn't, under the proposed revision, it just wouldn't be a precondition.
Well, precondition, but it still be taken into
It
account.
can still be taken.
If they're in the top three, you have to pick from the top three.
Yeah.
Right.
And
Well-
one of them's a veteran, you have to take in the top three, you have to take the veteran regardless of anything else.
You're absolutely right, Bob. I mean, the veteran preference is real.
Yeah, can I just ask, so the people on the Civil Service Commission, the three people make the final?
We do.
They make the list.
They make the list of the three people? Is that the way, okay. Is that accurate?
If you have 20 candidates
Yeah.
and 16 of them pass, they rank them in from 1 to 16 and certify and send it up to council. Council then picks from the top three, and then if another vacancy were to open
I
up,
see.
you'd then move number 4 up into the top three. And the chief's right, often people would get disqualified when they go through the follow-up testing and background checks and whatnot.
What's the downside to seeing if you get candidates in and then making a decision if you don't get the candidates in?
Just the cost of administering the test.
Time.
That was kind of my question. It's kind of like any job application, like you set the bar here, and then if you don't get anybody,
You have the freedom to move the car.
I think the Chief, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I think the concern is that the department is already one officer down, and it would add some time to the process.
Delay.
And we do have a.
And probably unnecessary, it seems like, right?
You know,
We
part of this
have
is
a target for the second officer, we know when that's going to happen.
Next year.
Yeah.
July of 18, which you're, practically speaking, you're talking March.
We've been very lucky with the last two officers that we hired because they really fit into the ethos of the department very well, the ethos of the community. So, you know, it's a part of this thing, I think, in talking to the sergeants comes from the fact that they both know of people that they would think would make a great candidate to come on the department, but who don't meet that requirement
Right.
for the education part. So I think that's why, just, you know, it's such a, you know, if you make something a really strong requirement and other things aren't a requirement, how does that, you know, in the end, we just want to try to find the person who fits in best with the department.
Okay, is there a motion?
Are we going to vote on each of these individually, or, because there was a third thing about the...
Oh, yes, let's bring up the third thing, and this is new. No visible tattoos when wearing the Swarthmore Borough police uniform, including a short sleeve shirt. Now, you know, that it sounds reasonable, I guess, at least on the face of it, but I know there could be some concern. Well, I can see two concerns. One is probably a lot of your younger candidates today are going to have a tattoo. Maybe probably is too strong a word. It's possible that he or she might have a visible tattoo, and then the question would be, you know, could it be concealed in some way? So if, for example, there were a tattoo on a forearm, you could wear an Under Armour type sleeve that would cover it. I guess there might also be some First Amendment issues. I'm not sure. I mean, it sounds a little bit, you kind of wonder about that, but I guess, you know, the truth is that a tattoo is a form of expression, self-expression. I don't know, Bob, I don't know if you know, I don't know if there's any jurisprudence on this, but...
No, I think this all arises out of a Philadelphia situation. Where somebody
Is everybody familiar with that?
had some white supremacist tattoo and some symbol, I don't recall what it was, but something, you know, troubling that you would not want police officers to wear. But the total ban kind of concerns me. I don't see where, you know, an American flag tattoo is particularly relevant one way or the other.
But we are requiring them to wear a uniform.
Oh, yeah. And
The tattoo may be inconsistent with the uniform. But in any event, I suggest we take them one by one. Is there a motion to approve the change in the quorum?
Can I make one more comment?
When we get to that part of the motion.
Okay.
Just so.
Yeah, so I'll walk us through this then. I move that council approve the following change to section 2.3 concerning the organization of the commission and a quorum. And essentially what that change would do is require that there be 3 members of the commission present, that shall constitute a quorum. Formerly it was 2. And then if by reason of absence or disqualification of a member, a quorum is not reached, the chair shall designate as many alternate members of the commission to sit on the commission as may be needed to provide a quorum.
Okay.
this is statutorily required. This change is to bring our regulations into conformance with the recent amendments to the statute.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion on that point? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Any opposed? That change is approved.
The lab first.
Next, this is section 3 concerning applications and qualifications. It's the one we've been talking the most about, section 3.5C. And this would be a change under which As it currently exists, an applicant has to be a graduate of high school or its equivalent and must have completed the equivalent of 2 full-time years of college, which may include credits earned toward Act 120 certification. The change would be the applicant must be a graduate of high school or its equivalent and must have attained a minimum of 60 college credits from an accredited institution, which may include credits earned toward Act 120 certification, period. And this is the new part. 3 years of continuous service as a police officer with a state, federal, or municipal law enforcement agency may be substituted for the 60 credit college requirement. I move that that change to section 3.5C be adopted.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion on that point?
Yes, I feel like this is a decision on an issue where I would like to see a written report on it. And the reason why I say that is because, we make decisions every day, like, do we want to put doggy bags in Little Crump Creek Park or something like that, that don't require, that they're very particular. This is something that I think probably has been studied. I know it was a big deal in Philadelphia when they did it. And there's probably materials out there. And I'd either like 30 days to do my own research on it and read something about it, or have somebody else provide a report on it with more information than what just has been. Right now, it just feels very thrown up in the air and not very informed about why we had it in the first place and why we would change it.
Okay. I think I'm not in favor of this change, but if I go back, part of it is that knowing, tying it to the contract we have with the police, is our undertaking to spend a lot of money to provide further educational benefits to our officers. And it takes me back to my 12 years on the school board when the school district underwrites the cost of further academic work for school teachers. Oddly enough, that as they acquired it, it puts them higher on the, not only did we pay for it, but it put them higher on so the bachelor's on the scale got so much considering their time. Bachelor's plus 30 got more, and a master's got more, and so we were assisting them while developing further skills to be teaching their children, but also to their own economic benefit at our time. To some extent, a cynic would say this requirement, while it certainly helps our police officers as they, the provision of the contract, acquire better, more learning to support them in their job, that it may, in fact, raise their qualifications for their next job. So I would say that if this passes, I will vote against it. If it passes, I will not vote to support any proposed contract with the FOP for our department that would allow people hired who do not have these 60 credits to acquire the first 60 credits that they go after at the expense of the borough. If they want to do that, and then beyond that, I would support it. But I don't think we should waive the requirement and then pay officers hired without the requirement to attain the credits that we have foregone in hiring them in the first place. So all those in favor of this change say aye.
I have one more.
Oh, sure.
If you don't mind. That was my initial position, David, and I looked at it as a negotiation position. Ross, I thought you made an excellent point. But in the conversation, maybe it's just a personal opinion from my own work experience, in that the more time that I spent and thought about it, I think I valued 3 years on the job more than 60 credits studying anything. So between that point and the Chief's point about finding a qualified candidate, and knowing that we've, I think, all come to the conclusion that we need a police force, and to have a police force, you need a certain amount of people. And when you go below, we go down one more person, we will be very difficult to task.
Okay.
That's all. Okay.
I wanted to make a comment, if I may. Just wanted, for Ross's benefit,
Sure.
for you to know that the Civil Service Commission did meet one evening with David and the mayor, and this was a lengthy discussion, just to your point about if it seems sudden. I mean, we did spend a lot of time on it. Maybe we didn't answer your questions adequately, but we discussed those things and what other departments do and what the reason for it was, and so there was discussion.
I appreciate that. My point doesn't go to the thoroughness of your work on it. My point goes to the fact that I have to cast a vote, and I don't have any briefing or information upon which to cast that vote. And I don't see any precipitous reason to move forward within the next 30 days on this.
May I make a suggestion? I don't have my copy of Robert's Rules of Order with me. So I think under these circumstances, it may be possible to make some kind of a motion to table pending something or other.
Yeah.
I don't remember whether that requires a second.
It does require a second, and it takes precedent over the underlying.
Under the underlying motion. So again,
So I would make a motion to table, for 30 days so that any council member can research this.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, all those in favor of table, I don't think there's a discussion on a motion to table.
I don't think so.
All those in favor of tabling for, till our next meeting, this matter, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
I'm sorry, I didn't vote. Aye. I
Okay.
was thinking aye.
Chair votes aye, and it is tabled till the motion remains pending, but won't be acted upon until our July meeting. Thank you very much. And then there was a third.
yes, and then we're not.
That's
we're not
controversial.
done- We're not done with this yet, but this is the visible tattoo. Again, what the new section 3.5 small letter I would say is no visible tattoos when wearing the Swarthmore Borough Police uniform, including a short sleeve uniform shirt.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion on this point?
For me, it's the same thing. I mean, I know the military doesn't allow it. You can't be in the military.
They don't.
No, they don't. So somebody's written something on this somewhere about why you should or shouldn't allow it.
Would you like to make a motion?
I'd like a motion to table for 30 days.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor of tabling this motion until our July meeting, say aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Opposed? Good. That item too will enable to have some more exciting July meeting than we might otherwise.
Fantastic. Okay, and I've only got through the first item on the agenda, public safety.
Yeah, that's all right.
Okay. Next up, I believe last week, council probably discussed authorizing the advertisement of an ordinance limiting parking on basically I'm going to get my directions wrong, so I'm going to actually look at the ordinance. I always get south and north and east and west. The south side of Dartmouth Avenue, between Lafayette Avenue and Oberlin Avenue. The east side of Cornell Avenue, between Harvard Avenue and Yale Avenue. And the north side of Harvard Avenue, between Chester Road and Yale Avenue. And the idea here is that this new proposed ordinance that would be advertised, if we vote on that, would be to prohibit parking from 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. Monday through Friday. Residents would be exempted. They'd be able to get a resident parking sticker and park in those areas. And again, just to remind everybody, this has been brought about essentially because of commuters parking in those areas. So I'm going to move that the council authorize the advertisement of ordinance number, I want to give a number, of ordinance number 1080.
Is there a second?
Second.
Mary seconds. Any discussion?
I just have a quick question, because I think it was Rick who pointed out that there's a lot of people who utilize one of those areas is in front of the church.
Harvard Avenue.
Yeah.
Harvard Avenue.
Yeah.
And I'm completely sympathetic to the point he made, but I wonder, even if we adopted the way he wanted it to be, whether commuters wouldn't just park there anyway, and therefore people couldn't utilize that space. So I didn't know if there was a reason to consider that particular space because of events that might be happening at the church, be it funerals, I mean, I guess you're not gonna have weddings during, I don't know what exactly happens during the week, but I thought it was a valid consideration for that particular strip. And now, the other ones, I didn't see that there was anything to consider, but.
Well, I think that's something that, I don't believe I wish Jane were here because I don't know the answer, whether the church has, weighed in on this or not.
Yeah.
But I know, my feeling is the church has been more in favor of parking restrictions at Harvard than against, historically, including very recently.
Well, the one thing that came up last week is this is a motion to advertise, so this is, we're not enacting an ordinance.
Right. I mean, and we can always, change it, right?
For the tens of viewers out there,
Just bring that,
I'm checking it out.
Right.
and just reiterating that point.
My understanding, David, is the same as that you expressed, that there's some sympathy on the part of the church and of the nursery school
Yes.
in support
Yes.
of this.
Yes.
The church has a large parking lot. There's the area behind the church, and sometimes that's somewhat restricted because of what's going on with the nursery school, but they also have, we all remember, a large parking lot right beside the Headstrong House that is available for church activities. So, all those in favor of advertising ordinance 1080, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Chair votes aye. No, there are no opposed, and I see no opposition.
Can I make one comment there? I did talk to one of the people wearing a hard hat who was parking on Cornell. I just asked him, I told him, we're considering this. And he said, I totally sympathize with the residents here. We're parking here all the time. The college made these arrangements for us to be parked up at the Springfield Mall. It's a total pain in the neck. And we just park here because we can get away with it. And we are very sympathetic to the residents here, but so long as we can get away with it, we're going to continue to park.
Well, candor. Although I would say, in fact, I think the arrangement for parking at the Springfield Mall has been intended for the work being done with the new BES building. Okay, David, can you take for?
Yeah, a couple more things on the agenda here. Consideration of the MOU between the Swarthmore Police Department and actually also the Providence Township Police Department and the Wallingford Swarthmore School District. I think you guys probably reviewed this last week.
We didn't, because it came to light in the interim.
Okay.
But everybody has seen it? And is anybody, is there, you made a motion?
I'm going to move that we authorize Chief Craig to sign this MOU on behalf of the Swarthmore Borough Police Department.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Okay, now any discussion about it? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Opposed? Chief, you're authorized to sign this on behalf of your department.
Thank you.
And the borough. Thank you.
Are you, I don't know, Mary, did you give a report on the committee last week?
I did not.
Okay, so I'm going to make this very brief, I promise, but there are five.
It's only 8:12.
It's only 8:12, right, all right. There are 5 items. First item, we met May 16th, which was election day. So we met in the children's activity room, which was a lot of fun.
On the little chairs?
On those tiny little chairs, yes. It didn't make the meeting any briefer, by the way, so that didn't work. But, yeah.
That's the way to go.
But first thing that came up, there was there was substantial public comment about the situation on College Avenue during school days with parents and others dropping off and picking up children. And basically what we heard from concerned residents and from others who, at least in the past, and maybe even now, have picked up and dropped off children at SRS in the morning and in the afternoon, is that it's a fairly chaotic, the way it's described, sounds like a fairly chaotic and potentially dangerous situation. And I know the chief, of course, was at the meeting, and he explained that the officers are doing the best they can to kind of keep things moving and to ensure that people are doing things safely. But as you can imagine, at certain times of the morning and afternoon, many people are converging, excuse me, on that spot. And as a result, you've got people parking in no parking zones, you have people double parking, you have people, making U-turns in the middle of College Avenue, so forth and so on. We didn't, the committee didn't undertake to take any action about that at the meeting, but we heard a lot about it. It's probably something that, may come up again, and maybe something that we feel we have to do something about. One suggestion was that someone talk to the school principal,
Which I did.
about it, and you did?
I did.
And I don't know.
She was going to had a note to send home with kids. I'm not sure if it happened or not. But basically reminding people that this is it's not to obey the traffic laws. They can't park in front of the fire hydrant. They can't park in crosswalks.
Right.
So, hope I didn't overstep my bounds, but I thought it.
No, I think that was a good.
I hope you threatened them with your office.
First step. Yes. Second item that came up, and this is what I was talking to Ross about earlier, the police department has come up with let's call it a citizen information form, which could be very useful in the aging in place context as well, many other contexts as well. And one thing that came up is, first of all, let's remember that citizens would be providing this information voluntarily. The police is not going around and collecting it. So you have to volunteer to provide it. But one of the things that people could provide is their social security number. And the issue that came up, and Mary was very articulate about this point, is whether the Swarthmore Police Department, or I guess ultimately the Borough of Swarthmore, wants to be responsible for, I guess you would say maintaining data security, with that kind of personal identifying information like a social security number. So I thought that since this was probably of particular interest to the Aging in Place Task Force, that maybe the Public Safety Committee would shift the responsibility for that discussion, if the chair is okay with it, to the General Government Committee.
Sure.
Because it seems like that even has implications beyond this. The whole idea of what sort of data should the borough have, what measures do we have to take to protect it, that kind of thing.
Is there any sense of why somebody thought it was a good idea to capture it in the first place?
I talked to Chief Craig about it, actually.
Okay.
Primarily when I'm assuming I'm talking about for people filling out this form, or people that need to frequently call the police.
Right.
Usually for health-related issues.
Right.
And when you go to a hospital, the very first thing they're going to ask you is for your social security number, like a way to identify you. And the other point Chief Craig made was that, trust me, they already have all the information they need. They fingerprint people, they collect driver's license information. It's a small item that will probably expedite most of, I think, the healthcare-related issues. And again, it's voluntary. So if you don't want to give it to them, don't give it to us. But certainly, maybe warrants further discussion. But that was the prompt.
My concern, and we did talk about that at length at the public safety meeting, but my concern about that was, and Chief Craig did explain that to me, that in the course of booking people, they do get a lot of this information, but as far as I could tell, that's under a different statute. That would be the crimes code that would enable them and authorize them to collect that. This is something completely different. And to me, I was just worried about a data privacy breach, and if the borough would be somehow liable for that. And, in researching that topic, there's even such a thing as data privacy breach insurance for municipalities. So it concerned me. Even though I understand fully what he's saying about, we get that information anyway for other purposes, to me this is different, and it seems like we're taking on a risk that maybe we shouldn't.
Okay. Well, I understand that that issue is now in the hands of the capable hands of the general government.
Yes, and in terms of the scope of the special prosecutor in this case, is it limited just to this form? Are you looking for us to put in some context of our general ability to protect data?
I mean, I think that, first of all, there's this form, and there's maybe some immediacy on that. But I do think it implicates, it has broader implications, let's put it that way. And, whether now's the time to look into those, I don't know.
But I hadn't thought about having that information available when someone is transported to a hospital and they want it. I always thought they want that the second thing after they get your insurance information.
Yeah.
Correct.
When you get to a hospital.
Since they can track if you don't have insurance.
If we just wanted a unique identifier for people unrelated to that, you could capture the last 5 digits of their social
Yeah.
security number and the odds that in this town you would have 2 people end up with the same number, I think are remote. But that wouldn't meet the other, but have fun with it, Ross. Okay. And if you want to carry it as far as you want to carry it to insurance or some international treaty, be my guest. Will your committee be meeting this month?
I'm going to, I don't know yet, is the short answer to that. But
If you did meet this month, on what
we
day
would be
you
meeting Tuesday, June 20th at 7:30 p.m. And very quickly, I'm just going to run
Do
through.
you want to say now you're going to meet unless you say
We're
you're
going
not?
to meet this month, the month of June, on Tuesday, June 20th at 7:30 p.m. in this room,
Okay, good.
unless it gets
Unless you,
canceled.
okay,
Yeah.
good, thanks.
All right. Very quickly, this will be fast. Rick
He has a
Lee,
lot of notes on his paper.
Rick
Rick
Lee mentioned something that I personally experienced, and I think it was very useful. He basically said that during summer months, especially, there are people around town who like to burn wood in fire pits, open fire pits, right there, for example, which is great. There's no law against that.
There isn't?
No,
Oh, you just can't burn leaves or...
right. But his point was they should be extinguished when you go to bed, because the fire company has actually received fire calls from folks, especially if your windows are, they wake up in the middle of the night and they smell smoke.
And you mean it might be the next door?
It might be the next door neighbor's smoldering fire pit, or it could be their roof,
Right.
you don't necessarily know. So he was just suggesting to extinguish those fires before going to bed. Lastly, we have the discussion of parking, which we've already gone over, and of course, Yale Avenue, and that was fairly brief. And that's it.
Thank you very much. You were not here. Jane mentioned to us last week with respect to the restriction in the 200 block of Cornell that in fact the parking and the signage as it presently exists don't agree as to which side of the street you're in. So in the process, if we ever get around to doing it, that will be corrected.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
One thing, David, on your date of the 20th,
Yeah.
I have in my book, Jane has a meeting, some other meeting that evening.
Oh, she does?
Yeah, at 7:30 with the community.
So I may need to reschedule that then.
Okay. Unless you don't need her. but-
And, yeah, I'll send around an email, let everybody know.
Thank you. Public Works, Parks and Recreation.
I have nothing new since last week, and we will not meet in June. Our next meeting is July 27th at 8:30 a.m. right here.
Okay, I would like to report that Barbara Grove and David Grove and their dog Ben Franklin actually walked today for the first time on the sidewalk that goes from Dickinson to Little Crumb Creek Park. It's wonderful.
I think we have a gap for some reason that's getting filled in at a later time.
Well, according to when my wife checked, that apparently they didn't have adequate plans for the handicap connection of the sidewalk at Dickinson and Harvard.
It
So,
had to do with the fact that there was no crosswalk going cross harbor. It's
Right,
only been one,
right, so
it's
that's-
not-
It is within the scope
it's less than
of
typical.
the bid though, so
Mhm.
that's going to get
Right,
done.
okay.
But yeah, it looks good, they did a nice
Well,
job.
they-
And Pico had to move a telephone pole, and they were still doing that. And we noted as we went by that there were 5 Pico trucks present for the purpose of moving one telephone pole to a new location. Okay, thanks. Will you be meeting this month?
Not this month, July 27th. is our
Okay, Mayor?
Thank you, Dave. The report on the farmer's market is that it's going swimmingly this year. The attendance is actually up. They actually have been, the last couple of years, been keeping count of people. There's some discussion about the fact that the count this year might include dogs, but it's about averaging over 600 people coming, and last year they were averaging about 4. So that's very good news.
400.
400.
Okay.
400. That's the
Not dogs.
I'm not sure I count dogs or not. Thursday Night Live music series starts this week. Weather's supposed to be nice. Cool down a little bit. School is out soon, so Swarthmoreans are reminded to be careful of with more children about running around doing their thing. The last thing I want to talk about was this visioning idea, which is starting to get some traction. That started with the Centennial Foundation. There was a meeting they had last month where they were trying to decide kind of what they would be doing over the next 10 to 20 years as an organization. Centennial Foundation is not an official organization, but it's done incredibly great things for the borough, and it's the governance of the commission is starting to change, mainly because of the age of the people who are involved in it going forward. So that discussion there started with Beth Murray starting to reach out to other people to try to think about, well, what do you think the borough should be in 10 or 20 years? So in addition to the town center, they're also talking to the college, and I've been invited to be a fly on the wall for that discussion at the President's Council, where they're going to talk about what the college might want to see in the borough in the next 10 to 20 years, as well as, so it's an unofficial thing that's kind of happening, and it's really just the Centennial Foundation trying to figure out where they're best put their activities and their resources and how it might kind of work. And we'll see where it goes. It's not an official thing like the last time we did a town center revitalization study, although it may, they may determine that that's something that they should sponsor again, so the next one kind of thing. So that's ongoing in the background right now, and it's very interesting.
Okay. I just on that point, I think many of us have been reading about we lament the problem. Those of us who lived here long enough can remember the old hobby shop where there was, you could buy a camera and you could do lots of stuff in town. And we would say, oh, the problem is that they're all losing their business to the malls. But the new paradigm is the malls are going out of business because they're losing their customers to Amazon and the like. And so it will be interesting if it turns out it's a matter of economics and with whatever tax burden flows, that some of the people who in fact own the buildings, and I sometimes have the feeling that Mr. Pastucci gets blamed for every problem that exists with every building in town, as if he owned them all, which I think he does not. But it will be interesting if it becomes desirable, if the buildings get combined, if a decision is made to forego commercial space on the ground floor and turn them into nicer residential places that people could live downtown. I just think it's hard to, it'll be interesting. I think the visioning process will be interesting, but the nature of commerce has changed so much and continues to change. I think it may be difficult to predict what the future will bring for use of spaces like those, but it's certainly a worthwhile effort.
The one thing I would say, David, is that we have to remind ourselves that Swarthmore is it's really wonderfully positioned for things to occur. We're an inner ring suburb, we're very close to Philadelphia, we have a great train connection that most people would envy. There are a lot of people who live here who walk to the train every day and don't really drive their cars much. And
Close to the airport.
And it's close to the airport and all those other kinds of things. So I think it's an interesting and valid discussion to be having, to try to figure out. And your point is very well taken about the changing economy and what that kind of means. Our newest shop in town now is a houseplant doctor. I wish him a lot of luck. I hope it works out well for him too, how it goes, and we'll see. So it's things change.
You know, on that note, the planning commission had the meeting a month ago where there was some discussion about the future of the town, and there's another meeting coming up, which I'm assuming you're probably going to attend there. Maybe. But it seems like there's an awful lot of synergy between that discussion and the one that you're talking about.
Okay.
So that people could be aware of that.
Elise, did the borough manager give you anything to report to us today?
She did not.
Okay, thank you. Bob?
So thank you, I don't have any.
Any other business to come before us tonight?
Motion to adjourn.
Motions?
You're
You're not allowed to move, second, and approve yourself. I have a minor role to perform in this connection. So all those in favor of adjourning, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned.